congratulations for getting Symphonic up and running. Tell us about it. Yeah, what are you doing there?
Yeah, so I saw um, a gap in the market for early stage investors who have a real interest in not just investing in the company, but also supporting the company for the real marathon like amount of time that it takes for that company to grow into an IPO backable IPO candidate.
Mhm.
So we are investing in companies that we believe will IPO one day and investing in them within their first institutional um, round and pairing them with the skills and expertise and knowledge that they need to grow. And so our whole thesis is that the best founders actually aren't going to go into a corner and just kind of figure it out on themselves by themselves and just like one day you turn around and it becomes a unicorn. The
Sure.
best right, the best founders actually need care, support, help, just like um, you would expect from anyone who is successful.
So you're speaking my language on that, right? I mean, obviously, we at Alchemist are an accelerator, and a lot of we do is that partnership and that care, love, support. But I think there's something really kind of powerful about what you're saying is that like the best founders aren't going to stand on their own brilliance, real or perceived. The best founders are going to be the most effective at finding, accessing those resources that are going to advance their mission. I love that as a sentiment. And as it comes to symphonics, we'll come back to your thesis, but it sounds like you are investing with more than just capital then.
Exactly, exactly. So we are investing with capital, but also with a wraparound support services uh, and focusing on how are we helping these founders really track towards KPIs that are really fundamentally impactful for their business. So one of the things that I like to say, a little cheekily, but actually it's true, is that when founders are raising their first round of capital, on the last slide, they always have a slide that says, in 12 to 18 months, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Oftentimes, once they raise that capital, you never see that slide again.
Uh,
Nobody knows at the seed round what those expectations were, what the benchmarks were. And our question is why? The founder knows what they want to do. We know why we backed them. Why not build out a process that holds those founders accountable and helps them achieve those goals so that they are really successful over those 12 to 18 months?
So I love that because you're putting a lot of intention around, the metric and accountability around it. That means that you have to have some confidence that they've got it right. They've got that 12 to 18 months roadmap right, which can be a little tough at the pre-seed stage, right, where you're investing. So how
It's,
do you do that?
yes, such a great question. And one of the things that we say a lot is, you ask 10 folks what pre-seed is and you get 10 different answers. Some people
13 sometimes.
right? Some people say pre-seed is back of a napkin. Some people say pre-seed is deck and maybe an MVP. Our thesis is that we are really excited about companies that have built something and have what a early customer traction. And so when you have that, you usually have a pretty strong point of view of, okay, this is at least directionally accurate of what needs to be built and what we need to do next.
Okay. Um, cool. And so is this part of your diligence process? Is this part of your post-investment process? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so we are pretty data driven on our diligence process and our post investment process. So we ask the questions to suss out whether or not these companies are the right fit with our diligence process. And we also have a pretty transparent website that outlines these expectations that we have of founders. And then post investment, we work really closely with the founder, expect to connect with them. at least monthly to support them in ways that they need to help them reach their goals.
Got it. Okay. That makes total sense. So I want to talk more about this thesis, the 99% and the making life better for them. What does that mean to you, and what is the opportunity that you see in that space?
Yeah. So for us, um, I spent almost a decade in the valley and what I saw was a lot of navel gazing.
Ivory tower navel gazing.
Yes. And
Okay.
what actually do we need? What are problems
Yeah.
that we would like? What are solutions to challenges that I face in my life? And the uniqueness of the Bay should never be taken for granted. That is such a unique community. And I think I loved living in Oakland. And um, I think that it creates a lot of really interesting things. But what it isn't is reflective of the rest of the country. And there's a lot of innovation that is happening in places like Atlanta, like Boston, like South Bend, Indiana, that just isn't getting the same amount of attention because they don't have the same amount of capital.
100%.
So our thesis is let's find them. It's
Yeah.
all on Zoom anyway.
So you're scouting and the places where folks, maybe there's not as much noise, there's not as much capital, there's not as much, frankly, competition for you in the system in South Bend, Indiana, or Houston, or Memphis, wherever you may be. Is that, do I have that right?
We're definitely really excited about um, investing in companies that are outside of the Bay Area. What we're seeing though is more competition in these places. I'd like to say that we are leaders in this space, but we're not the only ones in this space.
Well, and that does make sense. I mean, Alchemist has an office in Memphis for similar reasons, actually, right? And in addition to internationally, and I do see just a ton of opportunity. But you talk about mostly investing in health and finance.
Mhm.
So how did you identify those as sort of the sectors that resonate with the 99%?
Yeah. I mean, we think of those as foundational backbones of anyone's life. If you don't have, if you're not feeling financially healthy and if you're not physically healthy, what can you do? You're put in a really difficult position. And so we like to go back to the basics on everything we do. And we think that those are two really foundational elements of our economy and our society that um, we're excited about seeing a lot of innovation in.
And when you're out there talking to, for instance, your LPs, right? And you're saying, all right, here's why this mission makes sense. Here's why we're going to have impact in the world and maybe, return some capital doing it. What do you tell them about that? Do you see some trends in the world that are like, okay, there's more focus and attention in this area? Does my question even make sense?
Yeah, I mean, well, the high level is that both of those spaces are trillion-dollar spaces. And
Yeah.
so it's quite easy when you're focusing on a sector that has that market size to find a company that has the potential to return your fund multiple times over. Our other thesis is that the 99% is the majority of the country. And so these aren't niche solutions. We're looking at solutions that are actually applicable to so many people. And that opportunity to impact that many people is one, extremely humbling for me and the reason why I come to work every day. But then two, a really exciting opportunity from a financial perspective as well.